Blumenfeld is a best-selling author and Middle East analyst at the Johns Hopkins School for Advanced International Studies. Welcome, Laura. Massive Israeli bombardment on parts of Beirut tonight and also every day of the week. What is Israel's strategy there?
Well, unlike Gaza, there are no hostages, and there is a plan, a military plan that they've been working on for 18 years since the last showdown with Hezbollah. What you're looking at right now, I think, is Israel shredding Iran's insurance policy on its nuclear program. They're trying to take out, blow up the stockpiles of missiles that Iran has loaded up over there in Lebanon, aimed at Israel's population centers.
Well, at the same time, the ground operation in the Lebanon-Israel border region is also continuing. Is this still the limited incursion that Israel called it when it began?
They certainly would hope to borrow a page from Hobbes, which is nasty, brutish, and short war, rather than the slog of 1982 and the kind of fight that was fought to a draw back, in 2006. Already, though, Israelis have seen heavy losses relative to their population with boots on the ground. Some of the key elite fighters of the Egoz unit were killed and 35 injured. And I think that's been a sobering reminder to Israelis that it isn't all kind of air power with no consequences. So I think they're going to be cautious. The challenge here in Gaza, it was how can we quit while we're behind, because we're still trying to reestablish deterrence. I think the challenge here is how can we quit while we're ahead? And I think that's very important. I noted yesterday, I'm just going to hold up a copy of yesterday's New York Times, where you have them saying that, Israel has reestablished the deterrence lost on October 7th. I would say that, they've now kind of made their point to the world. Israel is back. And the sooner they can translate that military success to diplomatic, to the diplomatic route, then the better off for the world.
Now, Hezbollah reportedly fired about 90 projectiles from Lebanon into Syria on Saturday. What does this say about the group's capabilities?
Well, according to latest estimates, at least half of their stockpiles have been degraded, but they're not done. And some of their top leaders have been taken out, but they're still they're a tough fighting force. Israeli military planners always called them 10X, which meant 10 times as armed and trained and brutal, frankly, as the fighters of Hamas down in Gaza. So there's a lot of fight ahead. Today I spoke to an Israeli top intelligence official who said there are weeks, hopefully not months, left to this fight.
Laura, interesting statement today by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He addressed the French President Emmanuel Macron. Let's play the clip for you and then get your reaction.
As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel. Shame on them. Israel will win with or without their support, but their shame will continue long after the war is won.
What do you make of Netanyahu's angry statement there?
Well, it is certainly very emotional. He stood, at the UN a week ago, yesterday, and said, "Our fight is your fight," addressing the West. We're fighting, we're on the front lines against terrorism to protect you, the West, meaning France as well. For Macron and for other leaders, it's kind of a moral dilemma, right? They believe they are allies with Israel, but as Secretary Blinken has said from the very beginning, shortly after October 7th, how you fight this matters. And that's been the central dilemma, and even like the headline on this whole war in terms of how the West relates to Israel. Israel is heavily dependent on weapons, particularly from the United States. And so anytime you threaten that, there's a kind of panic that enters Netanyahu's voice. I can remember back in April when the United States was talking about withholding some weapons, he said, kind of recalling Holocaust imagery, if we have to fight with our fingernails, we will.
Do you currently see any chance for an internationally brokered ceasefire, as Netanyahu seems to be, brushing aside all criticism?
I do think that this is kind of a final showdown moment, particularly depending on how things go with Iran. October 7th is the 1 year anniversary of the Hamas's brutal assault on Israel. Let's not forget they started it. The next day, Hezbollah started lobbing projectiles, rockets, missiles into Israel. They wanted this to be an Al-Aqsa flood. Israel is now looking at this ring of fire it's surrounded with and saying, okay, we're going to fight fire with fire. So it sort of, what I'm hoping for is that on this day of October 7th, Israel was a year ago the ultimate victim. If they can emerge from that anniversary feeling like they're now back on top, they've reestablished themselves, not only sort of for their enemies to Iran, but for their potential allies like Saudi Arabia. I mean, Netanyahu firmly believes that countries don't make treaties with the weak. And what he's talking about is Saudi Arabia and the other moderate Arab states. He's trying to form this kind of coalition to push up against the axis of resistance. That's the only way forward, and the United States will be able to get back on track with our goal, which is regional integration, expanding the Abraham Accords, and greater economic prosperity for all. That's the best case scenario.
That's Middle East analyst Laura Blumenfeld. Thank you so much.
Thank you.